Welcome to USA Global TV and Radio, where our mission is to provide education, entertainment, hope, and inspiration. USA Global TV and Radio connects you with experts and audiences all around the world every single day to help you succeed in business and to live a richer life. Visit us at usaglobaltv.com to learn about career and life-changing training and mentoring programs like the Listening Mentor. Subscribe to our newsletter to stay informed about our special programs and offers. Discover how you can become a guest on one of our shows or a host or producer of a USA Global TV and Radio show of your very own. That's USA Global TV and Radio, where the doctor is always in.
Welcome home to USA Global TV and Radio, where we provide world-class education, entertainment, hope, and inspiration. Today's show is The Corner Bookstore. I'm Dr. Jacalyn, KERBECK, and I welcome you wherever you are in the world. We are thrilled to have you. Please do subscribe to our YouTube channel, which is USA Global TV and Radio, and you can be apprised of all of our shows, which are about 42 different options each week. Joining me today is a dear friend and colleague. He is also an author. He helps first-time authors get their books published. He's a distinguished Toastmaster. He's also a longevity strategist and expert. And he is somebody who knows all about what it takes to become an Amazon #1 best-selling author, as he is himself. Welcome to the program, Mr. Red O'Laughlin. Hello, Red.
Hello, Dr. Jacalyn. Seems like we just left each other minutes ago.
We did. We just did Food and Our Emotions, and hopefully people got a lot of value from that. And now we're doing The Corner Bookstore. We have an author who's joining us for the first time, and he's in Canada on a book tour. So before we welcome him, Red, how do you help first-time authors? And what's the secret to getting that #1 best-selling author from Amazon?
Well, if you're a brand new author and just getting ready to start, there are several ways of doing it. I primarily help people who in the nonfiction world, but I have done novels. I've done some other ones, cookbooks, a number of different kinds, memoirs, a number of different kinds. But from a perspective, I like to take people before they actually start writing to who's your competition. If I'm writing a book like today's author on forestry and logging and things like that, well, who is my competition? And I'll take them into Amazon and show them, okay, here are the current top 10, top 20, top 50 books in the same category you're in. These are your direct competitors. What are they offering that you're not? So get yourself focused on what value are you bringing to your audience. So that way you know ahead of time. There are many different ways of writing. Some just people sit down and start going, and that there's nothing wrong with that. But in reality, if you wanted to write a book, you can do it in a weekend. And you don't have to have a pen or a keyboard or anything else. Just take your cell phone or your computer and record yourself. I usually start out something very simple like, say, Dr. Jacalyn, tell me about the first car you ever had. And if you structure a book like chapters where there are questions in an interview, and all you do is you answer the interview questions, it becomes very, very simple. There are a lot of ways of going, but that's one that I can suggest. But I say, let's say you have 12 chapters. Where do you start? Not necessarily a chapter 1. Start where your passion's at, and maybe chapter 5 is your passion. Once you get started, then the rest of it's easier. So the part is knowing where you are, what value you're adding, how do you want to get there, and what we talk about, all those kinds of things. But essentially, you have a plan to get the thing done in a reasonable amount of time. But you can't wait till the book is written and then start marketing yourself and your book. So you have to start one train, a marketing train that goes down that path, and a parallel track right here that you're writing. So you're telling people about what you're doing in the 2 or 3 or 4 or 5 or 6 months that you're doing whatever you're doing, so that when you get to the destination, you've already established that marketing baseline. Makes it far, far easier for you to say, oh, by the way, gang, I just finished my book today. And that's totally different than if you've been dripping things about your book all along for weeks and months at a time. And then being able to get #1 is reliant on several factors. #1, the categories you're in. Who's your, if you're publishing a book the same day in the same category as Oprah Winfrey, forget it. it's not going to happen. But if you happen to have a good category that fits well with your book, and you get your book out there and it's available for buying, and people know about it, and you have a certain amount of sales the first 72 hours, that's a big plus for getting your book number one. You get some reviews, half a dozen, or more. That's another big plus to get your book number one. There are some strategies that can be employed to get that. There are some people who do that for a living. That's all they do, is they take your book, put it into their mixer, and be able to crank out. I have one young lady who does it for a living, and I think she's got like 49 out of 50 books number one within a very short period of time. So there are ways and means to become number one, but just because you publish a book on a certain day doesn't guarantee it. Maybe you have to come back 3 months later and redo everything over again because it's a better time to put that book out. And so anyway, let's get to our author, Bruce Hornidge. Can't wait. I read about his bio as I was preparing for today, and he, like me, grew up with a dad that was in the military. I guess he ended up going into family business and other things, but let's bring Bruce out and learn more about him and what's going on in his world.
Absolutely. Welcome to the show, Bruce.
Hello. Thank you very much.
Thanks for being here. So, Bruce, you are doing something very exciting that as an author I have not done yet, which is you're on a book tour, which is really fantastic. And you're actually joining us from a friend's location as you travel around. How's that experience been for the book tour?
Of course, everything's scary first time and that. So, yeah, nervous and everything else. So, but it's fun so far, and I've been able to answer the questions fairly, and having quite a bit of good time with doing that. We're in Port Alberni right now. I'll be going to a bookstore right after this interview and doing a book signing, and then I'll proceed to my hometown of Jacalyn on the west coast of Vancouver Island. That's where I worked, and do a signing over there also. I'm in amongst friends and people that were loggers in the past, or were part of the history of Jacalyn area. So yeah, it's time to reminisce, I guess, and get this book out.
As I was looking at the book on Amazon, it turns out this book has just been out it hadn't even been out, 10 days. I mean, it's just boom, it's there.
I'm hoping that everything proceeds smoothly, of course, and yeah, it's available. Maybe take a little while to get there, but it seems like it's proceeding now. Yes.
Well, tell us a little bit about Bruce Bhornidge growing up in Canada, because that we're Americans, we don't appreciate some of the things that Canadians have as their lifestyle and everything else. So why don't you take a little bit of time and just tell us about the Canadian wilds and how you got into logging and all the rest of that stuff.
Okay, I was born in Ontario, actually. Dad was in the Air Force, so Air Force brat. Gimli, Manitoba, Saskatoon, Saskatchewan. He retired east of Vancouver in 61. I finished school there, and in 67, conditions were right to go over to Jacalyn and get a logging job. My brother was there, and he said they're always looking for new people. So I went over, worked as a ground person for 3 years, and then with machinery, building roads, and then in the warehouse as assistant warehouseman. And there's reasons why I left that to become a scaler of the Faller's Wood volume for 3 months. There was a big strike in 72, which wound up changing the Faller's pay from piecework to day rate. And because our jobs were done out of existence, I got an opportunity to break in falling. And I did that with a trained faller and partnered up with a guy who actually was pre-war as a faller with the old crosscut saw for 7 years, and he taught me a few more things. And up through 26 years falling trees till termination in 1998.
You're using the term falling trees. I assume that means the same thing as we say here in the States, cutting them down.
Yes,
Okay.
with a chainsaw. Yeah.
And Bruce,
No.
you have your book there with you. Can you please hold it up so our audience can take a look at it?
Okay.
Loggerheads. I love that title. So, for people who are absolutely new to logging, can you explain it in the most basic of ways?
Well, we have mountainsides here, of course, and they do Western states is mountainsides. The harvesting of trees with a chainsaw is my experience, and then they have to move those to the roadside to load them onto logging trucks to take them down to the water, put them in the water in booms, and then take them to the mills where they process into wood products, mostly lumber, pulp and paper, whatever is available to sell the product to. In a simplified form, and that's about it.
What kind of trees do you fall? Did you fall?
Our area on the outside coast is primarily cedar, red cedar, hemlock, balsam, some spruce, balsam. I think I said balsam. Whereas in the middle of the island here, they had quite an extensive amount of fir. I never fell much fir because you need a bit of a drier climate for that. But on the outside coast, cedar, hemball, and some spruce, coastal spruce.
Thank you, Bruce. And so, what we've shared so far with our audience is that you have a brand new book launch and you are in the middle of a book tour. And one of the discussion topics that we have for today in relation to the book is pre-existing sustainable logging. Pre-existing sustain. That's a lot. It's a mouthful. What does that mean? Can you break that down for us?
Well, pre-existing because it's old growth wood. You fall, sorry, you fall that for harvesting. Sustainability, damn. You have to do it in a proper manner so that you do have some rotation of forests, replanting and patch logging. The new methods nowadays, the helicopter log to take specific larger trees out and do it that way. So I'm thinking pre-existing is at least sustainable in the long term. You don't like to have it so that you cut it completely and have a nothing for to harvest after that. I mean, there's billions of trees, right? So it takes quite a while to go through all that in a harvesting method and then grow it back. I say grow it back maybe 100 to 150, 200 years to regrow the trees for harvestable size. Takes a while, but hopefully it can be sustainable rotation then. Is that clear as mud?
Yes. Thank you, Bruce.
So from a sustainable perspective, you're cutting down just enough to meet your needs, but also allow the forest to continue to grow faster than if you just cut down everything. Is that a fair way of saying it?
Fair way of saying it. As long as they keep replanting it, it should rotate very well. Forest fires and things like that come along and take out some of your areas, but that's the idea. Is sustainability is to regrow stuff, and that's what we were doing.
Have you ever been caught in a forest fire?
Yeah, the first year I went over there to Jacalyn, they had a Taylor River fire started, and I fought that for about 5 days, but it took several weeks to actually put the whole thing out. But our crew on our end was on it for 5 to 7 days. it mostly went to the east towards Port Alberni, away from Ucluelet. So the Port Alberni people were the ones that fought it the longest. So yeah, right off the bat, it was that. I don't really like fighting forest fires. Nobody ever does, but it's dirty, dangerous. Yeah, I'm glad I only did it once, and we didn't have any fires after that. But BC's had a problem the last couple of years.
Is that more of something that's caused by lightning, or are there other issues involved with the fires?
Yeah, Taylor River fire, there was road construction and they blew up some rock, and one of those rocks severed a power line, which arced and started a fire in the brush area. I believe a water unit came in and missed it, and winds came up pretty heavy, and it took right off. Again, down in California, they got Santa Ana winds. Terrible to push fires along. Here, coastal wind can do the same thing, but that particular fire was that rock blast. Lightning strikes, yes, there's lots of that. Hopefully they can get to it while it's still small and suppress it. You hear stories about people doing it themselves. Why they would do that is crazy. Campfires and things, thrown cigarettes. There's lots of minimal excuses or small excuses that cause fires. Yes.
How long, as an author, did you actually say, "I'm going to write this book," and why did you decide on this topic rather than something else?
I like writing. I had spent many decades writing on forestry issues to important people, I think, or letters to the editor on my opinion. And that was the basis of my writing. As far as the logger story, when we were in the facility that they provided for people, loggers that were losing their job, there was a computer outfit there. And I started to learn how to type a little bit. And then I decided this story needs to have some firmness, a recorded area. So I wrote the first paper, 12, 15 pages long, on the nightmare of going through it. And then the second paper was 10 pages, the apocalypse of losing job loss and the aftermath. So I kind of sat on it for a number of years. I wrote stories for the readers group that I joined in Port Alberni, and an editor friend, Jacalyn Carmichael, said, "Why don't you move it into a book form?" And she edited it. If I was on a rant for the two papers, she smoothed that over, and we added the actual act of falling trees as a story, and she produced the editing on the book. So I sat on it, like I say, for 25 years, and now we're on it. Shouldn't have done that. I should have done it right away, but you get filled with who the hell cares, and it's not good enough, and blah, blah, blah.
All the stories we tell ourselves.
Yep. Oh, yeah.
Well, you have your book there. We'd love to have you read from it if you would, please.
Yeah, this is about 2 pages. Hopefully that's not too long, but I think it sort of says it all as far as loggerheads, the experiencing the blockades at the, in 1993, there was a big demonstration and blockades. We went through it every day for about 4 months. And anyway, hopefully this says it all. Monday, August 9th, 1993, Clayoquot Sound near Tofino, British Columbia. There was a mass arrest of 300 protesters in the Clayoquot blockade. And the story is, McMillan Modale informed us of the blockades in the marshalling yard that morning. They told us how the day would proceed. While they knew they couldn't stop us from doing anything different, the company recommended we keep out of the way. The approach road to the bridge blockade was a parking lot of vehicles. We watched the police remove the protesters. Some arrestees went limp in the arms of their captors as they were physically carried to the paddy wagon buses. There were signs, there were ovations, there were speeches, there were epithets, and they were referring to us as tree killers. And you speak for the trees, like the Lorax from Dr. Seuss. Well, I do too. Think time is standing still around those trees. That's just because you've displaced 150 families and torn 150 guys from their livelihoods. A single stroke of lightning or some lit marijuana joint carelessly tossed outside won't send it up in smoke, or will send it up in smoke some hot, dry July. Would you rather live in a house made of plastic or a house made of wood? Or do you prefer bamboo? And where will that come from? Where will they grow that? When you look at me, if you see me, and that's a big if, do you see a tree killer? Don't you think I see the beauty of these woods? Does it occur to you that I want these forests to continue to grow and be renewed for my children and children's children? I asked these questions with my eyes and saw only rancor in theirs. I couldn't bear to stay and watch the show. I went back to the bus for coffee, stared down at my work boots, and I felt control slipping away, even as I crafted my plan. I would do something significant for myself and for the crew. All I had to do was light the fuse. I'd put it on those boots and go to the blockade and keep right on walking into the protesters. Through them, over them, keep going as far as I could. Hopefully my fellow loggers would come with me. If someone were to interfere with us, then we would release our frustration. We'd toss men and women out of the way. We'd carry the youngsters off the road. We would keep going until we broke the blockade. We might get arrested, but I could make a statement to everyone that I wanted and needed my livelihood. I could show my resolve in very demonstrative, maybe even violent manner. It seemed like a good plan at the time. Dave came into the bus for a cup of Java too, and he noticed my work socked feet, ready to put on the boots. He said he suspected he knew what I was thinking of doing. He acknowledged the plan was a good one, yet advised against it because of the number of people. I listened and suddenly saw the situation from a broader perspective. There was the RCMP. There were the reporters from around the world. We might look foolish in the pushback. Worse yet, maybe we would lose our respect from the public opinion. Maybe that's what they were going for anyway. We chatted for a while, drained our cups. The rest of the crew got in the bus. We were ordered by the foreman to drive 5 miles back down the road to await the clearance of the bridge. So ended my chance for either glory or incarceration for domestic terrorism, my chance to be a leader or a fool. What I learned was how easy it could be to snap and do something not really in character. For me, extreme behavior was not, I'm getting old. Extreme behavior was not entirely out of the question. And if I'd consider that kind of action burning that bridge, then how many other loggers at their tipping point would be willing to lead or to follow the lead to brute force? Since those fraught days, I think history has borne out this idea of average people willing to cross a line to violence, to revenge. As the pressure of life have begun to affect more people around the globe in recent decades, we've seen mass shootings, bombings, unfathomable brutality, unjustified, yet unleashed into the world with an ever-increasing frequency. How many of these actions started as an explosion of frustration over stacked odds and broken dreams? And I ended it with a quote from Mother Teresa: "If there is no peace in the world, it is because we have forgotten to care for each other." Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. So 25 years in the making.
Yeah, I should have done something with it sooner. It became a thing about at least leaving a legacy story for the family if it never went anywhere. But I'd like people to understand tree falling and the Clackwood issue a little better.
How many of your friends have written similar memoirs?
As far as I know, there's no other memoirs been written on the subject now.
Oh, wow.
I have to tell you, Bruce, that this is a subject I really had no knowledge or information about. So I thank you for sharing this because you've opened my eyes to a completely different subject.
Okay. Yeah, again, probably a memoir. That's one of the reasons. If you feel that there's not been enough coverage of it, you're moved to write or inform people of how it was.
Absolutely. And Bruce, for people who are just coming into this line of work, they're called loggers.
Right.
So what would you say in terms of sharing your knowledge and inspiration to help keep people coming into this industry? Because obviously it's vitally important.
Yes, it's become quite technical now with helicopters and selection logging programs. I can't stress enough on safety. Learn your job, apply your job, constantly look for the hazards. Hopefully, you're taught by practiced professionals and long-term people that have done it. Person that trained me, two biggest things you need for this job, he says, is these things and this thing. You got to see it to figure it out, and you got to figure it out to live. And that was priceless. That's why I would suggest they make sure they always do a safe job. Statistically, it's the young guys, the go-getters, the people that are don't think anything's going to happen to them. They're the ones that get killed. And you got to stress that they got to practice totally safety. Use the resource to the best of your ability by saving it. We were taught to fall trees on the hillside, cut them into logs for survivability. Don't smash it down the hill and say goodbye. Use the resource properly. Protect other resources, fish creeks. Make sure it's replanted and free to grow back into new forests. And there are programs now for forest fire protections and try and alleviate that problem. So it's got to be put into practice, yes.
Bruce, I noticed when I was reading the description in Amazon, it talked about forestry careers are cut short because of the demonstrators' picket lines amid government and company doublespeak. You talked briefly about picket lines, government and company doublespeak. I'm guessing there was a lot of issues that no matter which direction you're looking in, you were getting flack.
Yeah, the demonstrations, if they decide to have a demonstration in an area, Clayoquot Sound 92, they had a demonstration for a short while, and then the big one was in 93, starting in July for 4 months. They want to stop and disrupt the cruise. So this puts pressure on the company to give up. It's too expensive. The politicians put regulations on it and make it much more expensive to operate. It's just a lot of pressure on people. I hate to use domestic terrorism ideas, but by definition, terrorism is you stand as an obstruction until you get your way. Now, what does that mean? Demonstration violence, demonstration for whatever it takes, but essentially you're trying to get your way only. No compromise, nothing. And we were always sort of brought up with compromise. Do the best job you can. That's the ethic my parents instilled. It's What was the other part of your question?
Well, government and company double.
Government doublespeak. Okay, there were promises all over the place that companies are going to stay. They're going to go through this, and we have the right. What's that mean? Politicians were saying, your jobs are protected. The industry will still survive. So there was a bit of doublespeak there. We had politicians, no, there will be no job loss. Well, what does that mean? You'll replace the jobs, therefore there's no job loss. To us, we would hope we would retain our primary job of logging, not go on to computers and some other job at a lesser income and things like that. I went security guard for 7 years, which is the low end of the food chain. That was a little laughs too. I should write a book on that too.
Now, the company you work for, is that still in existence?
Well, logging still takes place under different names. M&B divested of Kennedy Lake Division and then sold entirely to Weyerhaeuser. So it dissolves. The octopus is somewhere around, right? In a different name. Don't mean to call them octopus, but it's just the way the company systems and that work. They sell out and buy up and disappear and that. But it's a long-standing name in Canada. It was McMillan Brodale. Yeah.
I noticed you held up a physical copy of your paperback, but when I looked on Amazon, I could only find the Kindle version. So where do you find the paperback at? Is that on Barnes and Noble or somewhere else?
Yeah, I like to think it's been ordered up and the initial print has been spoken for, and it's kind of dissolved. There's a 3 to 5 week delay. Other reasons why it's not available. I know that, and that. So I'm hoping that it's a case of movement of books, and to get that straightened out soon. Okay,
so it's written. It's just right this second not available, but probably comes pouring in down the road a week or two or whatever.
I sure hope so. That'd be nice to have world scope of my book and libraries, schools as a resource for something that happened to people back in the 90s, and I think that's where it should be placed too. So yeah, hope it goes.
And
go ahead, Dr. Jacalyn.
Sorry, I was going to say it could also be that it's Amazon Canada, that the paperback is on there and it's not on the US version yet. That could be.
That's possible. You like to have it flow to the States, to Europe, and yay, and
worldwide.
I shouldn't really count my chickens too early. It's a story, and I hope people enjoy the stories of falling and then get a better sense of the Clayoquot issue.
Okay, so as an author of 25 years, if you were talking to somebody fairly new and thinking about writing a book, what advice, what would you give that person is saying, you really want to write a book? This is what I learned.
Yeah, again, listening to yourself and your advice, that's excellent. And another editor to look at your book and Jacalyn did a super job on mine to smooth over my anger and rant, and then use the stories of falling as being the center stage and not necessarily the end of my career. You got to relate to people, relate to your workers, relate to your bosses. Some is not so good. This is an experiential thing that I wanted to express the difficulty of working, relating to people, having relationship. And well, the name Loggerheads, I probably objected too much to stuff that was happening to me, stuff that was happening to the forest that I disagreed with. So you pursued that angle of it. Yeah, find your niche, get a good editor, and pursue it. I mean, do what you do well.
I think you hit it right on the head, Bruce, when you said stories, because we can all tell people the what and the how and the why and whatever. But when you incorporate a story into your chapter or whatever you're talking about, all of a sudden you captures people's imagination because they can see that visual transformation of what's happening when you're talking about this thing or that thing. But when you're just, going down the list of things, they're just a list of things. But, when you're talking about safety and you talk about somebody who was super safe and survived, or somebody who was not quite attentive and lost a hand or an arm or a life, I mean, those stories stick with people a lot more than just the generic, don't do this, do this.
Yeah. Lots of safety first, close calls. I'd shake you up pretty good, some of the ones I had, and I managed to escape. They're things you better learn or you're going to wind up dead. So that's, safety was my biggest concern. I got into arguments with bosses about volume, doing a fast job or whatever. But if it's going to compromise my safety, that wasn't going to go nowhere with me, because I was determined to survive at that job. I hate pain, so I wanted to make sure I didn't get hurt. But close calls, books.
And now that you're retired and you've had 25 years of writing experience, is there a second book coming out soon?
There's so many stories in logging. I probably should come out with stories, pre-falling, after falling. Like I say, the security guard. I should write a book on that too, because you go through lots of experiences there. My hobby has been Second World War battle studies. I wanted to write a couple of war books, novels. I got 20 or 30 pages into each one, and they're still sitting there. I got to get back at it, right? And as an aside, I knit too much now.
I love it. What are you knitting?
I'm a man, so it's got to be quite simple, right? So laptop blankets, scarves, fingerless gloves, toques. It's cold up here, and but I got to keep it as an easy pattern, because I'm a man, right? And I tell the ladies in the knitting group I belong to in Georgetown, Ontario, it's man-made. So might have some flaws in it. People come in and say, "Good morning, ladies and man." So sorry for the aside.
Good for you. That's outstanding. So, Bruce, you are on this book tour. You're leaving right after this to go someplace. Tell us a little bit about the rest of the stops.
I'm, of course, going over to Jacalyn, where the original site of my work was, to offer it to the community as a record book, but also for them to reminisce about. So we're going over there for a book signing on Saturday. And I'll stop at other bookstores before I head back to Ontario, just to do promotions, and libraries. I should stop there too. That has to have a vetting process, I guess, at libraries. And I'll think up some more encouragements for promotions. Like when I go back to Ontario, of course, newspapers, it'd be nice to promote it there. That's quite a big market of people. And there's lots of people that I've told in Georgetown about the potential of the book, and they're interested in getting it for Christmas presents.
Fantastic.
Yeah.
That's excellent. Bruce, we've really enjoyed having you today. What's the best way for people to get in touch with you?
Gmail is bhornidge@gmail.com. My cell phone is 1-250-735-2804. I'm on Facebook and Instagram. My publisher is Endless-Sky-Books in Saskatoon. And again, it's supposed to be available on Amazon, Barnes and Noble, Chapters, Indigo, and hopefully other suppliers. Again, it's got potential, and I hope it goes, and hope people enjoy the stories.
Well, we thoroughly enjoyed having you here today and hearing about this subject that, again, I had no knowledge about whatsoever. So I love to learn, and I appreciate you taking the time to be here. And we wish you continued success. Come back and see us on some of our other shows as well.
Okay, certainly we'll do that. The cold months are coming, and I'm headed back to Ontario the end of next week. So we'll be shoveling snow and living there in a comfortable setting.
Well, I have to say, I'm in Florida, Red's in Texas, so we're staying nice and toasty where we are.
Yeah, Ontario is too hot and too cold, but from what I'm used to. But yeah, we're getting used to it. And like I say, shoveling snow is a load of laughs.
Pass.
Bruce, truly enjoyed it. Enjoy life, have fun, and I hope you have great success in your book sales. I really, truly do.
Thank you very much for your discussion and advice. Also, I'll put that in right here. Okay, thank you.
Thanks, Bruce. Enjoy the rest of your tour, and we look forward to seeing you again.
Yes. Okay. Do well and take care of yourselves.
Thanks. You too. Bye. I thoroughly enjoyed that.
It's interesting. You get some people and they write about their lives or portions of their lives, and it's just, you can sit there and listen to them forever because those little stories and things like that just go on and on and on, and it's just kind of hard. Oh, wow, that's kind of interesting, and never do that. So, but yeah, that was a good time today.
Absolutely. And Red, you have 2 more shows coming up today. Tell us a little bit more about them.
Well, our next show comes up in a little over an hour, The Wise Ones, and Tony Hunt, I think, is the guy's name today. Anyway, I met him on LinkedIn. We did a Zoom together, and he was kind of showing me how he does what he does, and I'm sitting there just, whoa. I said, you really need to come on and show this to the world. We've talked in the past about Chat GPT and artificial intelligence and things, but there's one thing when you take and you hone that particular application to the service that you're offering that gives a major benefit and a lot of value to the customer, the client. And so he's going to be on and talking about the things that he does for businesses, for people. And it's just, if you can't catch it live, please go to the archives on the USA Global TV and Radio Network on YouTube and look for today's event, because it is really and truly going to be a masterful set of things that just, I didn't know that. You can do that. And if it's in an area that it works well with your business, your service, I can't say enough about it. The second one we have today coming up is Wellness Topics and Hot Trends on Talking Heads, which is immediately following The Wise Ones. And this one here is part 2 of however many, I don't know. Generally 6, might be 8. But we're talking about hot topics and trends primarily for 2023. What is really truly going on right now that we don't know about that might become vogue down the road? And this is the way we always do things. One of the things I learned about is intermittent fasting. I thought it was going to be around forever. Well, for whatever reason, some people think that it's starting to phase out a little bit from being a hot topic in earlier lives. And so from that perspective, is that really and truly a hot topic that's disappearing or not? You know, they talk about this thing called mouth taping. That's a big deal. Well, what is it? It's a hot topic. We'll find out. So we're still right now in the very beginning of what are the hot topics and trends, and then we're going to dive into several of them so we can learn about, well, why is this so important? Why should I even care about this? That's what we're going to be talking about on Talking Heads today.
Thank you so much, Red. And what's the best way for people to reach you, and who would you like to contact you?
Well, any new authors, anybody who needs a speaker primarily on health and wellness, my preferred methods of contact are telephone and email. My best email address is red.olaughlin. That's OLAUGHLIN. OLAUGHLIN. So it's red.olaughlin@gmail.com. And my phone number for those people who can't read the banner here on the video part, the audio audience today, is 281-687-4144. 1188. Again, 281-687-1188. And love to answer your questions. So give me a buzz.
Thank you so much, Red. Another fabulous show, and look forward to seeing you after I go off to Bagelville.
I will ask you if your expectations are met when we get back.
All right. Thank you, sir. I appreciate it. And now over to our sponsors. Thanks again. Please do go connect with Red on LinkedIn and on his website. He really is an incredible person, has helped me personally and professionally. There are no words beyond words. So thanks again. Bye,
Catch you in
everyone.
an hour.
Okay. Bye.
Bye now.
USA Global TV and Radio, in partnership with Dr. Jacalyn LLC, present Amazon #1 best-selling author, Dr. Jacalyn KERBECK. Dr. Jacalyn KERBECK is a certified life, career, and executive coach who teaches people how to listen at an elevated level through her courses and her books. Dr. KERBECK teaches her clients how to open their hearts and express themselves through their creative genius. In her children's book series, The Amazing Adventures of Lady Ella, The Listening Mentor, Dr. KERBECK teaches children and their families how to listen at an elevated level. Dr. KERBECK has worked with clients across the world to guide them in how to express themselves and communicate at a highly effective level. Join our team of elevated listeners so you can listen without judgment, without providing a solution, without interruption, and without stealing the stage. To order your books today, go to drjacalyn.com or Amazon.
Hello everyone, I'm Simon MacDonald. I live in the West Highlands of Scotland, a very beautiful part of the world. Seems a long way from the USA Global TV station. But remember, USA Global TV is worldwide. It's a fantastic platform. And every Wednesday, I come along here as part of the show of the United Kingdom, News and Culture. And it's just like a family reunion each time. It's one of these amazing stations that has such a beautiful, friendly, and intelligent atmosphere as well. And we reach out to an audience in the most unimaginable places. And I came here, I don't know, must be over a year ago now. I was introduced by Dr. Philip Chan, and I met Ian Plum-Turner and Helena Chard, who are co-presenters on the show. And then Diane Floyd-Bem came along as well. And I mean, the five of us, Dr. Jacalyn, of course, who is our host and our mentor, has just made this show work so well. Tremendous people, lovely time we have, and we impart a lot of information, a lot of knowledge. Nothing's rehearsed. It's all done off the cuff, and it all just gels. And we get great feedback from people coming back and saying how they're enjoying the show. It's lovely to hear, and it's lovely to get that interaction from outside as well. And we're all listeners, and some of us are elevated listeners as well. So we enjoy every second of it, and we hope you do too.
Hello, I'm children's author Diane Floyd-Bem, and I am co-host for several of the USA Global TV and radio shows. I joined because of the purpose of the USA Global TV and radio. They provide content for the viewers and listeners, an opportunity for people around the world to have their own show or even be a guest on an existing show. We truly believe in helping others get their positive message out to the world. We also have the opportunity for the listeners. You can watch on several platforms, and on YouTube, you can ask questions and even give a comment. We absolutely love it. I love being part of the USA Global TV and radio because I love positive messages, and who doesn't? And we need more of that in the world. We are a family, and we hope you will join us and become part of the family too.